Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This session we are going to discuss about VPC. So what is VPC? VPC is a virtual private cloud network. So when you create AWS account or free tier or any AWS account, so which contains each region, we have a one default VPC. Okay. So but in real world we don't want to create, we don't use any default VPC. So we have to create a customized VPC where we can deploy all the services. So Amazon recommended to create each environment have their own VPC, which means so let's say for example we have dev environment. Dev environment we have a own VPC and production environment we have own VPC. So, which means what are the services which we are going to deploy as part of the dev environment? All the services should has to create within the dev VPC. The same way, the production services has to create within the production VPC. The services means database and applications and load balancer and storage, whatever it is, that has to create within the specific environment level VPC. So, which means there is no communication between the VPC. So each environment have the individual private network. Okay, so in that case there are few steps which you need to follow to create these are the steps we have to follow to create the VPC. Okay, so the first thing is create a VPC in the subnet range which I'm taking /23. How do we know what is the range which I'm taking, which we need to take? But at the moment I'm taking /23. If you go to there are a lot of calculators available. The if you go and see the if you google it, we can get there is a few of them which can see. So if you can see, I'm taking there's my network address and my mask bit which I'm taking as 23. When you say update, so you can see we are coming total around 510 IPs which is available within the /23 subnet range. But if we change it to /22, so we can see uh, so we can see 10.10.02 no, 22 available. So depend upon, so how do we know which one we want to take? It's a depend upon the requirement. The requirement base, so we need to know within the dev environment, let's consider as a dev environment, how many servers which we are going to deploy as part of the migration or going forward in future coming days, coming 3 years or bottom line. So we are going to build how many servers. So based on that we can go ahead and deploy the VPC based on the subnet range. So the again, if you go with the low subnet range or big subnet range, doesn't matter. But there is no extra cost. We can go with any range. But I'll prefer to go with /23 for demo purpose. Even if you go with 22 also, 10, 16 also, we can go. But here, if you can see, total we have a 510 IPs which is available within the /23 subnet mask. Okay, that is the first step. See, if you look at the second step, what is the saying? Create a public and private subnet, both availability zone. So what does mean? This demo, I'm going to create two subnets for two availability zone. So which means each availability zone having the one public subnet, one private subnet. Okay, the public subnet where we can use for the external services if you want to deploy any ELB, which is external facing application, which means Facebook and Google, these are external facing one where we can access anyone. So there are a few surveys which has to run a private network, that's a database and application service that has to sit on the private subnet level. Okay, so this organization, so there's internal and external. Internal private subnet, external is public subnet. So if you can see total we have 510 available. Now in that this is the entire VPC subnet range. Now I'm splitting into the four subnets. Four subnet means each two public subnets, two private subnet. Why? Because each available to zone one public subnet, one private subnet. Okay, if we divide, which means if you can see this is one available to zone, this is one available to zone. Now again I want to split into 254 to make it as one public and one private. Let me divide again. If you say, you can see 126 126, which means this is a private subnet 2a, this is a public subnet 2a. This is a if again this one divide, if you divide the bottom two which contains, it doesn't mean we can pick up anything, but I'm considering as each one is one subnet. That could be private subnet or private subnet, public subnet, doesn't matter. So for the naming conversion, we're going to keep like this, but base, okay, this is just one I want to create. Then after that we'll discuss. So if you go after that, we want to create a route table. So route tables, when you create a route table, so we want to create a route table and assign the route table to the specific subnets. If you create a public sub private route, we are going to create two route tables. One is for the public route table, one is for private route table. Public route table, we are going to assign the public subnets. Private route table, we are going to assign the private subnets. So how do we know which is the private subnet, which is the public subnet? But we are just keeping the naming conversion, but naming conversion doesn't matter. The matter is when we assign the public route table, if we assign the internet gateway, that is called public subnet. When we assign the route table, private route table, if we assign NAT gateway, that is called the private subnet. Why? Because any okay, let's understand the route table first, then we'll talk about the public and private subnet. Okay, let's understand the route table. So route table is control where the network traffic is directed to. So each subnet in your VPC must be associated with a one route table, okay, which contains your routing to your specific subnet. Okay, that is called route table. So it means when you create a route table, we are assigning the when you create a route table, we are going to assign the specific subnet to the specific route table. Okay, that is called the route table. Then understand the what is the public subnet and what is the private subnet. Okay, public subnet basically which and where we can use for the external world. Okay, public subnets which contain the route table that has routing to the internet gateway. Via internet gateway, any routing is going on, that is called public subnet. And let's talk about the private subnet. What is a private subnet? Any subnet, any private subnet, which is something like a backend services. Backend services mean so any database or application service which is creating within the private subnet. So via sorry that private subnets are backend servers, so like a database and application servers that don't need to accept incoming traffic from the internet. However, uh, they can send a request to the via using the they can send a request to the internet using NAT gateway. So any traffic private subnet which is coming from the NAT gateway. NAT gateway, how we are going to create NAT gateway, which we are going to create a public subnet. Let's say for example, we are running two public subnets. So each subnet which has to create one NAT gateway. Okay. Then after that, the NAT gateway we need to assign to the specific route table. So which means any traffic which is coming private via it has to coming to the NAT gateway. Okay, this is all about the subnets and VPC and route tables and NAT gateway and other stuff. So let's jump into the session. Before going to, we need to understand one more thing. So now I'm taking it slash 23, this is the one. And if you look at here to the power of 32, 32 means so we have a only for 0 to 32 bits available. So if you take in the 23, we have to take this in formula for the to calculate the IP range based on the CIDR. This is 2 to the power of 32. This is the 23. If you are taking 23, we have to go with 23 subnet CIDR range. If you are going 22, we have to keep it at 22. Then if you take 32 minus 23 is the value of the 9. So 2 power 9 means 2 into 9. So it's coming the pi 12 IPs. So it doesn't matter. You can go with this way or you can go with the, there is a lot of calculator available in Google. You can search it. Anyway, I'll go into keep into all to in description page. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the create the VPC demo. So okay, let me create the VPC. So I'm going to create a VPC called dev dot VPC. So here I'm getting as a 10.0.0.0.0/23. Let me scroll down. Uh, Quickly create. This is a VPC setup. Okay, you need to understand one thing. Tendency here. What is mean by tendency? There is a two types of tendency available. One is for the default, one is for dedicated. So default one is always recommended. If you select the dedicated one, highly expensive. The other thing is if you select the dedicated one, we have to create the all the services dedicated servers only. It doesn't allow the other services. So if you go with the default one, we can spin up any kind of services. So EC2, if you have EC2, we have a on-demand dedicated. There are a lot of three, four types available, but but I will, but best way I will go with the default one. If we specify the dedicated one, we have to only spin up for the dedicated one. Okay. Let me create the default one. Let me create the VPC. So we have created the VPC successfully. So we have dev VPC. Let me go ahead and create the subnets. So these are the default subnets we don't want. Let me create the subnet. First to create the, select the VPC. This is the VPC. So if you scroll down again, so here the subnet range, what is the subnet name? I'm keep it as a dev dot uh, private, so 2a. Okay, so let's take it the availability zone. I'm creating as a 2a London availability zone 2a. So here the IP address. Let me go back here, take the IP address of this subnet address. So we can take this one. It doesn't matter. We can go with one formula also, but there is a lot of available Google. We can take it up, do the formula. These are well CIDR range. Okay, let me create subnet. Let me take the other one again quickly. Mean okay. So that is one. Let me create a. So let me select the VPC. If we scroll down again, so here dev dot public 2a we have created the earlier. Let me select now again 2a. So give this one. So now we have created successfully two sub. Now we have created successfully two subnet. Dev dot. So public to within the region I have created one private, one public. Okay, let me jump into the take the other one. Shade range 10.0.1 dot. So let me create subnet again. Let me select. So dev dot pra private 2b. So select the 2b availability zone. Let me scroll down and give the shader range for the private subnet. Okay, so we have created. Let me create the final one for the 2b. Create subnet dev dot public 2a. Okay, sorry, 2b. Select the 2ab availability zone. Copy to the subnet range here. This is /25. Let me scroll down. So we have created the total four subnets. Uh, two is public subnet, two is private subnet. So we can see two private subnet and two public subnet. Okay, that's all. As per the document, so we have completed the subnet setup. So let me jump into the route table. By default, when you create a VPC, so we have one, you can see here VPC. By default, when you create a VPC, we have a default route table which is available. Now I can use this one. If you don't want, you can use, that doesn't matter, but I'm using this one. I can keep it as a public one, public keep it as a public route table, public keep it as a dev iphone route table. Okay, let me, this is a public one. Let me create a other route table which contains, let me select private dev. Let me select a VPC. This sorry, this is a VPC create. So we have created the route table. So we have two route table available. One is for the private and other one private public. So let me select the public first one, then assign the subnet. If you can see at the moment we don't have any explicitly subnets associated with public route table. Now let me go ahead and assign to the specific route table subnet. Okay, here if you can see subnets, let me edit the subnet associate. Let me edit here. Let me select the, this is the public route table. Let me select the public subnets. So here public 2a and public 2b. Okay, oh, because so this is done. Now we can see two subnets assigned. Here you need to understand one thing. Okay, let me assign private route table, then we'll discuss. So if you go to edit again private and select the private route tables, private 2a and private 2b. Let me scroll down and assign. Now we can see, so private subnet having the two subnets. Here you need to understand one thing. So remember that one subnet can have associated with one route table always. But again, but one route table can be associated with the multiple subnets. That can be possible. We can see here, these are one route table. you can see two subnet, which means one route table can be assigned with multiple subnet. That's what I want to say. So here we that is all done. Now this is the naming convention we are defining as a private and public. It doesn't matter first, but how do we know which subnet, which route table is the public one? If somebody change the name, which doesn't matter, naming convention is always doesn't matter. But as part of the technical process, we want to know what is the route table, what is the private route table, what is the public route table. Now we can see here, if you select the public route table, here routing, this is a default VPC. When you create a route table, this default is always local. Okay, but if you look at, we want to know this public one, how do we know exactly this is the public route table? In that case, what we need to do, let me go ahead and create the internet gateway. Let me create internet gateway. Let me keep it as a dev.igw internet gateway. So if you scroll down below, so let me create. So now I have created one internet gateway. So that is at the moment is detached. Okay, let me select this one and go to the actions and attach to VPC. So select the VPC, which VPC you want. This is the default VPC. So which I was sorry. This is the this is the customized VPC which I just created. Sorry. So you can see now this particular internet gateway is associated to my VPC now. Now let quickly go back and see the route table now. Go back to the route table. Now we have created the internet gateway, which means any public subnet, it has to go with the internet gateway. So which means go to the select the public route table and attach to here. Here go to the route, add the route. What is the route? So you keep it as 00. Here select the target. What is the target? Why? Because it's a public route table, which means select the internet gateway and select the internet gateway ID. So now we can see, now you can easily find out this is the public route table. When you see here internet gateway, which means this is called public route table. If you somebody change the name also doesn't matter. Why? Because this route is going to the via internet gateway, which contains this the public route table. Now let's understand the what is the private one. So private one also similar like that only. We have assigned the two private subnet, but in routing at the moment we don't have anyone. As per the previous discussion, so if it is a private route table, which means that traffic has to go with via NAT gateway. So at the moment we don't assign anything route here. Let me go to the NAT gateway. Go to the NAT gateway. So this is the tilt one. So create a NAT gateway. So here keep it as a name, dev dot NAT gateway. Keep it as a select the subnet. So when you create the names, you need to understand one thing. In real world, each public subnet having the individual NAT gateway, which means each if you have a five public subnets or three public subnets, so each public subnet have the own NAT gateway. So this is the demo purpose. I'm just creating one NAT gateway, so which is for the public 2A subnet. Okay, but in the world, but we are using but as per the process, but we are using two public subnet, which means 2A I have to create one public one NAT gateway, 2A 2A public subnet I have to create one NAT gateway, and 2B public subnet I have to create one NAT gateway. Okay, this is only for the demo purpose. Okay, now let's me attach the elastic one. So allocate elastic IP. I just allocated the elastic IP. If we come down, let me create a NAT gateway. So I have successfully created the NAT way. We can see pending status. Now let me quickly go back to the route table and assign it this NAT gateway to the private route table. So where is the let me go to the route table again. So I'm in the route table. Now select the private route table. So go to the routes. You can go to edit routes. Add the route. I can keep it as 00 always. So locally you have to select the what is the target name. This is the private route table. Select the NAT gateway and select the NAT one. Okay, save it. Now we can see here. Now we can see. So when you see that this route table, we can see the target route is NAT gateway, which means you can see subnets also private, which means this is called the private route table. Okay, so this is all fun done. So this is all the done demo. So let me assign it to the DNS for the public. Let me select the public one. I'm in the public subnet. Let me select the public one. Uh, so modify auto ascending. Let me select this one. Enable auto ascending for the public IP address. Okay. So this is done. One is done. The other one is go to the public to be. Go to the actions. Modify auto ascend. Enable the auto ascending for the public IP address. So let me go with this all done, two subnets. Let me go back to the VPC. Let me go back to the VPC. Select the VPC. Go to the actions and edit to DHCP option set. These are all, not this one. Sorry. Let me enable the DNS hostname as well for the VPC. Let me select the other one, DNS resolution. So it's already available. It's already enabled. We don't want to touch anything. So this is all done where the VPC part. So let me go ahead and quickly launch the one of the EC2 instance and we'll see. So launch the EC2 instance. Select the, so yeah, let me select as a default one. So select as a dev VPC which I just created. Select the subnet. So keep it as a name. Keep it as a VPC demo. So configure and keep it as select. 22 port is already available to allow the connection. So launch, select as my key pair. So you can see I have created the this is the VPC which I just created. Okay. So let me take the public IP address of the server. Go to the console. Open. So load the keys. We wait for. Let's wait for 2 more minutes. Let me say yes. Now give the default user EC2-user. Now I'm in the server. So now let's see. Let me run the install curl. Now you can see everything is coming. So that's it for the demo, VPC demo. So if you have any questions or please keep in the comment section. I'm going to keep all the required information in the comment section, description section. That's all for this demo. Thank you. Bye.